Debbie with Kip's Corner. Welcome back. Okay, this is week number 4 of One Tag 8 Ways, which is a series I'm doing in the month of March. Every Wednesday in March, I will be posting a new video, and there are 5 Wednesdays in March, so One Tag 8 Ways is actually probably going to be One Tag 9 or 10 Ways. We'll see when the month is over. So we started with, we started with week 1, doing just some layering with tags, mostly paper, a little bit of embellishment, some sewing, not complicated, just pretty simple, just taking tags from different kits. The primary tag I'm using for One Tag 8 Ways is from Compendium MK2 on LoveJunkJournals, and I'm using that exact same tag every single time I create something, just using it in different ways. 8 or 9 or 10, that was week 1. Week 2, I just took the tag, my base tag, and cut it or ripped it apart and reconstructed new and a different composition or a different layout of the pieces from the tag, and kind of came up with these 2. And in this week I used just a little bit of Tim Holtz texture medium clear rock candy, and it is a crackle, sort of almost like a fine china crackle. And so that was week 2. Week 3, I began to just play a little bit more with some texture, some different mediums. This one has texture paste through a stencil, or actually it's crackle paste through a stencil on the back, lots of splatters, some chipboard, that piece of the tag, the primary base tag, just some rust pieces, a button, some fabric, a little bit of trim down here to kind of create that grassy look, and then some metallic paints and waxes, and just some fun there. This one is texture paste colored with liquid acrylic to get that golden color. I used umber, I believe. Just a little bit of layering here, a little cluster here with some fabric and some lace and a button. On top of the button, I used a glazing medium to bring out, and that brought out some of the patina. It's a metal button, so that brought out some of the patina on that vintage button, gave it a nice little texture, and just simple, not a ton going on there, but beginning to introduce some mediums and some textures and things like that. So those were weeks 1, 2, and 3, and now I'm on week 4. So for today, I thought what I would do is play around with printing that exact same tag out on something other than standard paper cardstock. And so what I did was I printed it out on 2 different pieces, and I used freezer paper. So if you have freezer paper and you iron a lightweight fabric, or this, in this case, this is rice paper and this was tea bag paper, and I just ironed it on here. Then I was able to put that through my inkjet printer and print directly onto the unique substrates. That works with fabric too. And so this is rice paper. I don't know if you can see it. Let me get up close, but it's got some texture in it. It's kind of like a mulberry rice paper. It's got some inclusions, little leaf inclusions in it. I have a piece here that doesn't have a whole lot, but I printed directly onto that paper. And I also, before I did, I increased the saturation of the print just through my print program. I just increased the saturation a little bit because I wasn't sure how the paper would take the ink. This one is tea bag paper, and here's where I kind of ripped it out from, and you can see it's really, really thin. You can just pull on it and it just tears. And I then went in and just ripped, and actually as I was pulling it off the freezer paper, I got a little hole in here where it stuck too much to the freezer paper, where my iron probably had gotten a little too warm, and it sort of began to fuse into it. But I just very carefully sort of peeled it off the tea bag paper, the freezer paper, and then I ripped all the way around, just gently pulling on it to pull it apart from the rest of the tags, the rest of the things were on there. This one I just sort of cut out. So that's where we're starting. And what I want to do here, I want to adhere this with some matte medium, a thin matte medium, just a lightweight matte medium. Like this is more like the consistency of Mod Podge. Not a big fan of Mod Podge, but matte medium works as well. There are different mediums that would work as well too. Collage medium from Tim Holtz, that kind of thing. And I want this to be wrinkly and just sort of all over the place. And so I'm just going to adhere it. This is a regular chipboard tag. It's a gray chipboard tag. And I've just put a layer of white gesso on the bottom so that it's not gray, and I'm adhering my medium to the gesso. This is just a cardstock tag. It was a craft cardstock tag. I put white gesso, just a really thin coat of white gesso, actually on both sides, and that's to help prevent it from curling up because this is really thin and lightweight. And I'm going to play with this one on there, but first I'm going to play with the first one here. With an old brush and some matte medium, and I'm just going to start slopping it on here and just sort of laying this on. And like I said, I want it to be wrinkly and textured and layered. I don't want it to be perfect. And so that was why that hole that I created when I pulled it apart, see, it's already gone. So no big deal there on the hole. And then what I'll do, since this is a little bit smaller, this tag is bigger. This is one of the Prima Marketing tags that I used on some of the other pieces last week. And I did print it out a little bit larger. I think I went to 120%. But I'm just going to literally glob it on and just get it all nice and wrinkly. And this tea paper is really, really thin, so you got to be careful. But I'm okay if I rip it, because remember, I'm intentionally trying to get some wrinkles and some crinkles and be sloppy and messy. And there we go. That's down. Okay. And there's a hole here, but we'll do something. I must have, yeah, I got it hold up there. But we'll do something a little different with little there in that space to cover that up. So I'm going to set that aside so it can dry. I'm going to do the same thing with this one, but this one I'm going to try to be more precise and more exact in getting it on here. And I haven't thought through, I have no idea what I'm going to do after this. I had a business trip this week, and so I haven't been here to sort of think through what I wanted to do. So I'm kind of winging it. So, yeah. Okay. That's ready to dry up a little bit. Okay, I think I'm dry now. I've got this one. You can see some of the colors sort of got blotchy, and that's cool. I actually like that. So I've got that one, and I've got this one, which looks a little bit of a mess, but we're gonna do some more to it. We're gonna alter this, I think, this one a little bit more dramatically probably than we are this one. So the next thing I want to do is I want to put some texture on this one, especially sort of around these edges. And I think, let's see, I haven't really used regular Crackle paste. This is Art Extravaganza from Prima Marketing, Finnabar, white Crackle texture paste. And mine's it's actually almost empty. But I'm going to apply some texture, some of this paste, this Crackle, just in some random spots with a palette knife. So I'm just going to come in and just, not too much, just in some spots, just to blend in the edge of this a little bit more with there we go. And maybe a little bit more over here, just for fun. I probably got too much on it, but that's all right. That's okay. All right, now, again, every layer that we do, we want to let dry. So, you do a layer, you let it dry, and I'm just kind of wiping my finger around the edge here just so I don't have big chunks of that on the edge. So you do a layer, let it dry, do a layer, let it dry. That's what we're gonna do there. Now on this one, I think what I wanna do, again, I hadn't really thought through this all the way, but I think I wanna test out, we're gonna set that aside and let it dry. Crackle paste too, most Crackle pastes do much better if you let them dry naturally as opposed to adding heat. There are some mediums that do just fine with heat and others not as well. Crackle paste is one of those. You certainly can heat it and it'll begin to crackle, but you really are better off letting that go. On this one, what do we want to do? Let's alter the entire base with this clear rock candy. I'm actually very much in love with this right now, so I think this will be another, I'll use it again. I did there, but I'm going to use it in a bigger spanse here. So again, this is Distress Crackle Paint Clear Rock Candy from Ranger. It's Tim Holtz Distress. So I'm just going to dab on the whole background here. This one also has to dry. And again, the Clear Rock Candy Crackle Paint does better. Now on this one, you can add heat to it after it starts to crack. So you want to let it sit and air dry at least until it gets started. I have found that I think, while you can do that, certainly, I think you're still better off just letting this air dry. And both of these, I think you're better off letting them air dry. So we're gonna set this aside and walk away for a little bit while those two dry, and I'll be back. But I'm going to set that off to the side here for the moment and focus my attention on these pieces. Now, I just received, just this week, I'm so excited, the new Finnabar waxes. They're antiquing waxes. So I'm going to grab one of those and I'm going to play with these metal pieces. I'm pretty sure, not 100%, but I'm pretty sure that my favorite of these waxes is going to be the sepia. So I'm going to play with that first. I'm just going to squish, oops, I see, I literally just got them. I haven't even tried them yet. So this is going to be an experiment. I'm going to throw a little dab over here on my mat. And I'm going to use, this is like a stippling brush. This is also from Finnabar, from Prima Marketing. And it's a good brush to get down in there. And I'm just going to get some of this wax paste on my brush. Get it kind of dabbed around a little bit. And I'm going to pick up one of the pieces. Let's just start with this nice big one. And I'm going to just start dabbing. I'm going to use Liquitex Matte Super Heavy Gel. This dries pretty quick and is a heavy bodied, let's see, what do I want to do? Let's put this one on first. It's a heavy bodied gel. And I'm just going to use, I have a silicone sort of a spatula here. I'm just going to dab these on, and I think I want that there. Push that down. Place for it. I like mixing elements that don't normally go together. You know, like I've got some leaves and some metal and stuff, and I'm throwing a buckle on there. I like that. I like that effect of the unexpected mixed in with the collage, the metal collage. All right, I'm gonna let that dry. Let that all get nice and dry, and then I'm going to, I think I'm going to sew around this. So, more to come. Okay, now I am going to use my finger, and I'm going to bring this copper up into the rest of the tag. So I'm just going to very lightly hit the edges first. Oops. And I'm rubbing it primarily over my Crackle paste areas. I'm not trying to get it even. I'll be heavier in some spots, lighter in others. I'm gonna hit these wrinkles. I'm gonna hit the top of the wrinkles. Now I'm gonna come back through and I'm gonna do some dry brushing. And I'm gonna do some dry brushing with some white gesso. So to dry brush, I want to use a fairly stiff brush. Use my black gesso, and the reason I want to use black is I want to kind of grab some of that black that's there. So I'm just going to get a little bit of black gesso and a brush. I'm just going to pick up my tag. I'm just going to go through and I'm just going to paint the edge. And by doing so, a little bit of that will come to the front. I want to do one more thing. I still want those flowers to be just a little, I don't know, I want them to be a little darker. So I'm actually going to go ahead and dry brush with the same brush I was just using. I'm going to dry brush some black here. And dry brush some black. Okay, I think I finally figured out what I'm going to do to this one, to this tag. I've got, I cut this little piece out of, what did I cut it out of? I cut it out of Fabulous Floral Flourishes. And it had a border, an orangish border around it. And I just cut that away. Just took it down, inked the side. Then I put a piece of cheesecloth on the back. And then I put a piece of fabric, about, what is that? About an inch wide. And glued half of it down to where I still have a half of it hanging out. Okay, and then I came over here to my tag. And I cut a slit. If you can see that or not, I cut a slit just slightly bigger than the height of this card. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to back up because I decided to do something else to the front of, to the birds here. So, okay, so I've got a couple of different distress embossing glazes. I've got a vintage photo and I've got peeled paint. And I've got to decide, I think I'll use vintage photo. So, and I would normally do this before I put the cheesecloth on, but you know, it didn't work out so well. I'm using, this is Wow Mixed Media Embossing Brush by Seth Apter. It's embossing liquid, except it's in full liquid form. So not in a pad or a brush. I mean, it's a brush, not a pen or a pad. And so I'm just gonna take some of that, and I'm gonna try not to touch my cheesecloth here. And I'm just gonna kind of create a little border there. And maybe a little here. And maybe a little going up the side like that. And I'm just gonna sprinkle this on and hit all the places that I just put the embossing glaze or the embossing liquid on. Just go around and just pick this up. Now, since I'm doing this backwards, I'm just going to take a brush and brush it off of my cheesecloth. So I don't necessarily want to, I mean, if a little gets on there, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, but I don't necessarily want the embossing glaze on the cheesecloth. So I'm just going to brush that off. Although, like I said, I don't think it'll look bad if I do end up with a little on there, but I got a bunch of strings hanging, don't I? Okay, let's get the strings out of there. Let me put this in here. Pick this guy back up. I just want to double check to make sure I don't have any of that really on any of my birds. I don't mind if it's around the birds, I just don't want it on the birds. So I'm just gonna brush around. Okay, that ought to work for now. And then now let's hit this. I'm going to hit this with my embossing heat gun. Not the best way to tell if it's dry. Okay, let me flip this over. And then I'm going to put this on the back of this, and then I've sandwiched that half of my fabric and the cheesecloth behind this. But I want the craft, I put some ink and guffed that up a little bit, and so I want to put some, actually before I do that, I'm going to drip a couple drips of water, because I did put in the center here, I did do some distress ink. And then I'm going to put this on the back here. So we've got a little bit of a sandwich. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take just this piece of fabric here that still has some glaze on it. And I'm going to slip this fabric into my slit. It's a little tricky. Just go like that. Get it all the way up. There we go. All right, now what I want to do is I got to pull just the cheesecloth back out. Let's see, is my slit long enough? I don't think my slit's quite long enough, so I'm gonna extend it just a tiny bit. It needs to be able to sort of move in there freely. So I'm going to just bring it down a little bit more. There we go. And if I had thought of this before I attached this top tag to the bottom, I would just be slitting through I would do it on this top tag first and then adhere the bottom tag and then hide that piece of fabric, but I didn't. But I typically back my tags with, what am I thinking of? A tea-dyed paper, you know, a little bit of tea-dyed paper. And so I think that'll be fine. All right, I'm going to try to pull this cheesecloth away. I can get it kind of up and out of the way because I don't want the cheesecloth piece slipped underneath here, just the fabric. And this is just a piece of linen fabric that I had. So again, I'm kind of doing this backwards because I thought of it after the fact. But I thought to do this. That the idea is not mine. I think my friend Laurel at Forever Purple Creations did something similar to this. Okay, so I'm gonna, there we go. My cheesecloth is now out. He's not straight. Okay, I'm gonna make sure I get this nice and straight. And I wanna make sure that it's gonna open. So before I do any more gluing, I'm gonna check it. There we go. It opens. Okay, so now I'm going to flip it over. And I'm gonna glue this down here, like that. Okay. As soon as I let the dog in. Okay, again, I'm just gonna go ahead and use art glitter glue just because mostly it's sitting right here. And it'll be fine. Just burn a little strip right down there. And it also dries pretty fast. If I did that correctly, I have a little hinge door. So I'm just gonna pull it out just a little bit more. And now I'm just gonna take my bone folder and run that down there just to get a nice crease right there. And then I'll do the same thing here, which is a little more difficult to do. Okay. There's my cheesecloth sticking out there. And there he is. Now, I don't want him flipping and flopping open, so I may, here's one thing I'm gonna do. Whoops, where's my knife? Okay, put the knife away. Cover the knife so that you don't cut yourself. I may put another little piece here so that this becomes a journaling spot. So let's do that. Okay, there we go. So we've got a little tiny journaling spot there. Now, one last thing I think I want to do is I think I want to put a closure on here. So let me go grab what I need for that. And I'll be right back. What I've got is a little, I don't know what these are called. It's like a little photo thingy and a brad. And I'm gonna figure out where I want this. I think I want it about there. And I need to be able to poke a hole. So I'm gonna get my pokey tool out. And I don't need it to cover it much, just a little. So I'm gonna poke my hole right there. So I have to decide what I wanna do next week for the tags. Haven't thought about it. So if anybody has any ideas or anything you want to see me try or do, just leave a comment below and let me know. More than happy to try something new. We'll go through here just a second. Let me finish painting this and we'll just take a quick peek at what we've accomplished so far. Let's see if we have accomplished what we set out to accomplish, which was to create 8 or more, I should say, different tags using the same tag base as a starting point, or ending point, I guess, for that matter. And they all look different. And to incorporate pieces from other kits, Tracy's kits in particular, and this is not true of all designers, although there are some where you can absolutely borrow pieces from other kits and they all coordinate and look great together. Tracy's, that's so true of her work in a good way. And I don't mean they can coordinate because they all look alike. That could be nothing further from the truth. They coordinate because they are all done so well that you can easily mix and match and pull other pieces, even though the colors may be different. And so that's talent. That's true talent. True talent. Okay, and done. Okay, so on this tag, I printed the base tag from Tracy's kit, Compendium MK2, onto tea bag paper. I did that by ironing it to freezer paper and then printing it and then very gently pulling it off. Then I added Crackle paste along the edges, and then I used infusions in the olive and sage colors. Infusions is a powder, and I sprinkled, it's from Paper Artsy, and I just sprinkled that around, added water, moved it around, got it to where I wanted it. And then I used on the metal pieces, on all of these pieces down here at the bottom are metal. I used the brand new antiquing wax from Finnabar, from Prima Marketing in sepia. And then I added copper and rust just in a few places. Then I went in and dry brushed the whole thing really in a little bit of white, and did some white dry brushing down here. And then I did some black dry brushing down here, and I did some white splatters. Then I painted my edges and the back black, and then as I painted the black, I didn't try to do it neatly, so you got a little bit of black kind of peeking through here. I also pulled the rust and the copper wax paste. Those were both from Gilder's wax paste. I pulled those up into the tag in a couple of spots. And then I added 2 pieces of sari silk up here with a little copper eyelet, and this is tag number 7. Tag number 7. Okay, tag number 8. On this one, I printed the base onto a rice paper. It's labeled rice paper, but it actually looks a little bit more like a mulberry paper. And it's just a little rice paper pack that I'd gotten from Amazon. I did the same thing. I ironed it onto freezer paper, ran it through my printer, pulled it off. It's a little bit thicker than the tea paper, or the tea bag paper, and so it was easier to kind of keep it whole. I adhered that onto just a craft cardstock tag, and then I adhered that onto a piece of file folder cut just ever so slightly larger than the tag itself, just to give a little bit of border. I sewed around the edge a couple of times, not trying to be straight at all. And I also put a layer of Distress Clear Rock Candy Crackle on top of the base tag. Then on this piece, I cut this out from one of the other kits, Mega Mix and Match, I think. No, I think this is from Fabulous Floral Flourishes. All of the kits I'm using of Tracy's are all linked down below. I think there's 4 or 5 of them that I'm using, so that's in one of those. I edged it, inked it, and then went around the edge with some Distress Embossing Glaze, which is a translucent glaze. And then what else did I do? Then I backed it with some cheesecloth, and then I put a little fabric tab over here on the side. I cut a slit in my tag and slipped half of the fabric back here, and half of the fabric stayed on the back of the card. That allowed me to create a door, and you can see that fabric there. And so I have a door, and then I added another piece of this same file folder here and here, and now I've got a little journaling spot, and I did some extra distressing on this side. I then backed the whole thing with another piece of the file folder. So this is a craft cardstock and 2 file folders thick back here on the back, so it's pretty darn sturdy. I added this little slide piece. It's a photo corner slide piece that just moves up and down, and that just keeps it closed. And then I added a little bit of sari silk to the top with an eyelet in a slightly different color, and ta-da, tag number 8. Okay, so 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And yet there is still 1 whole week. Let me get those in frame. There is still 1 whole week left in the month of March, so I will be doing more than 8 tags. I do have an idea for one of them for next week. I may only do 1, but hey, if you've got an idea, you have something that you want to see me try, by all means, throw a comment down below and let me know. And I'll decide in the next couple days what I'm going to do for next week, for the last week of 1 tag 8 ways, and picture that with a little slash through it that says 1 tag probably 10 ways. We'll see. For now, that's all I've got. Thank you so much for joining me. Your support is greatly appreciated. And if you're not a subscriber, and if you click the subscribe button, that would be awesome. Until next Wednesday, thanks. Bye-bye.